particular resources? Secondly, is that what are the causes and how humans are associated with it? And third, are there areas where they're actionable? Because it doesn't make sense for us to just mention invasive species if it becomes a growing list, but we can't take action. So what I'm asking is that, do you want us to really focus on areas that are actionable or be a little bit more general in that sense?
Well, I would like for you to focus on areas that are actionable, but I also think that people need to get a sense of the general concerns and what you've done already. I mean, I think we can speak to some of the issues, some of the things that have already worked on. I don't know if you knew this or not, but one of the first things I did as a reporter was a story on tansy ragwort. And I saw some as I was driving around the state this last summer. So I was really concerned about that. But I also spent a couple of summers in Nebraska chopping thistles, and that's a concern as well. That I think people have a sense of that. They need to know. They need to be able to identify things. They need to feel as though they've been able to identify something that they can relate to. That's going to be the issue, is to try to make it clear that there are things that have been done, can be done, and this is how you identify where those concerns are. I think it makes people feel as though they have a stake in it and that they can do something about it.
Any other questions for anybody online, Patrick? Have a question?
Morgan is online to get her.
Okay.
Yeah, this is very thoughtful. I'm very appreciative of your thoughts.
You have other things you'd like to update us on by June before we get Morgan on there that you might be working on, or more advice?
Well, I got a number of bills, and when it comes to stuff, the senator mentioned sudden oak deaths. We have a funding bill for that, as we do every biennium. It is increased because there was an outbreak in actually my community here in Port Orford at the old transfer station. And so a lot of the resources needed to be used to address that right away. And the problem with sod is there's only there's a few crews that can do the work. And so it doesn't matter if you throw $10 million at it, you can't spend it because there's only so many people that can do the work. And so we haven't been trying to go after more than what we can use. We can talk pike minnow on the Rogue if you want. I mean, I do have a bounty program for that. I know that ODF&W in the past has done something there as well. And predation in general is an issue when it comes to our salmon and salmonids, and so there is a bounty program for the pike minnow. I'm working with the department on legislation to deal with the smallmouth bass issue that we have in the Coquille River. Senator, it's a huge problem. It's devastating the salmon populations there, and and they've been trying to remove them. It's going to be a little tweak when it comes to forgive me, but it's something in law that you can't just take fish to throw them away. I mean, there's not
waste.
a lot.
Animal waste.
Huh?
Game animal waste, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be tweaking that language when it comes to an invasive fish, I think. And then also working with the Port of Mandan, we have issues with sea urchins that are devastating our kelp forests and seaweed. And so we need to give the department the ability to allow for, no limit takes on these things during these times. So that we can, I mean, those kelp forests, seaweed are critical for fish habitat. They're actually our fish incubators, and anyway, so there's a fun one that got the barred owl with regards to the spotted owl, so barred owl is taking spotted owl habitat, so I have a bounty program for those as well to protect the spotted owl. And
But when you're tweaking the stuff on the bass, you should make it illegal to throw bass back. They shouldn't have to be killed. They should have to be killed.
perfect, we
Okay.
can do that. And then we could just use it for, they can become cannibals and cannibalize their cousins there.
We did
Sure.
something like that on years ago, as I recall. I can't remember the fish, but it was a predator for the fingerlings coming down the Columbia. I can't remember the name of the fish, but it
Pike
was.
minnows.
Pardon?
Pike minnow.
Well,
The
no,
pike
this
minnow.
was a large fish, and it ended up being setting up as a competition to try to fish for that particular fish, and it seemed to have at least an initial impact. I don't know how long. This is me going back in time to the 1980s, but it seemed to have an impact. As I recall, people were surprised that there were folks who did like that particular fish, and they were able to make lots of meals and other things out of that, and they managed to bring in quite a bit. I did not know about the smallmouth bass. It would be good to know more about that. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. Thank you.
Yeah, and the Coquille Indian tribe has really stepped up their efforts to assist as well, and partnered. And so I'm pretty excited about the opportunities. It's going to be a tough slog. I mean, it's a pretty prevalent invasive fish in that system, but they've tried to do shock treatments to remove them. The derby is the other language issue. And so if I remember right, the Coquille did put some money forward, and they did actually tag some with the radios that so each fish was worth a certain amount of money, if I remember right. And so that was good. But yeah, I see Morgan down here saying, yes, that's right.
What?
One more thing, Representative Smith, I just want to mention, when it comes to invasive species, there are some solutions, sometimes they're controversial, but other times they're not. For example, there's a great demand for the uni in the urchins, the eggs and the innards. And there's a budding industry in aquaculture that's taking the wild urchins that are in heavy population, and then bringing them and culturing them so that they can get them to the state where they actually are producing the eggs. And so that's one way. It may not, obviously, it's not always effective to take one population and then remove it, but that's part of the main solution that we can think of how we actually enable that industry, which could be quite lucrative.
No, agreed. In fact, I think they're doing some of that work at OIMB, if I remember right. And Tom Calvanese and the Porterford Field Station down here has been looking into that as well. But there's purple and red urchins, and I believe the uni is from the purple.
Mhm.
And the red urchin is more invasive, and there's less, and anyway, but thank you for that. Yes, that's one of the things that in working with the port manager of the Port Abandon is he wants to, be able to remove, cultivate, because they have big tanks where they're growing dulse on their port property. And so they have the opportunities to cultivate these urchins there for just the purpose of the things you were talking about. Right now, they're just allowing divers to go out there and smack them with a hammer and killing them, and it's just not working that well. So if we could give the department the ability to, along with the smallmouth bass, to further have more tools to regulate with take and so forth, then I think we'd be ahead when it comes to these invasive species.
Representative, I was just going to add in a comment of appreciation to both you, Representative, and you, Senator Frederick, for the support during the short session. I think as we're thinking about these food webs and the natural systems that can help with different species, the legislature was kind enough to support our office's funding ask for ongoing research and support for sea otter reintroduction, which can be very helpful on the urchin front as well. So just wanted to say thanks for that support during the legislative process, and hopefully the sea otters can help with that management as well.
Told the governor I would support her sea otters, and so I did. But we can follow up with another comment and follow up a little later, Morgan.
Of course.
The one of the issues that was brought up at Penwar that I haven't heard here, quite frankly, is the swine. The incredible abundance of swine in the area. We need to be recognizing that is a significant concern in parts of the state, and we still haven't really paid attention to it, in my view. So it's certainly a concern in parts of the Northwest, Washington, Montana, in particular, and also I think British Columbia are concerned about it. But I think it's something we need to be aware of and be ready for, because we don't know what's going to happen with any sort of increase in the number of swine and the damage that they can do to certain areas.
Senator Frederick, I was taking the thunder from tomorrow, but in Oregon, if we don't get another report by December 31st, we're going to declare Oregon feral swine free. And that's been over a 20-year project.
Wow.
So
Wow.
It's been quite amazing effort between USDA, Wildlife APHIS, Soil and Water Conservation Districts, our agency. And so we're all waiting until December 31st. We haven't got a report in several months to a year of any swine being seen or observed, even though we have lots of camera traps and other things out there trying to find them. So it's been, and we removed a lot of pigs from Oregon's environment. Lots of pigs. So.
Well, then you need to make sure that is well publicized.
Oh yeah, we got news release already. We're already in the planning process for this one. It's a victory. Also going to be important to let the other states know. Again, Penwar needs to know this, so that they can talk about how it was done here and what kind of impact that's had. But that's just outstanding news. Let's cheer that as much as possible. It also means we can't stop watching, because
no, that's
they
true.
can get back in pretty quick.
No.
Other updates or questions from me that you guys might have?
Well, the issue that I continue to come up with, and it's something that Representative Smith just brought up as well in another way, is the capacity, the staffing, the ability to have people who can do some of the work. On a simple level, from what I understand, one of the reasons we haven't had as strong a presence in dealing with the checking the boats as they're coming in is because we don't have the people to pay for to do that. We haven't been able to pay the people enough people to really look at that. I'm not sure. I don't have an answer for that. It's a matter, I think, of understanding what's available in a community, how much it costs, and whether we have people who can staff these things. But this is a concern of mine, because we do need to continue to watch for those boats coming in. because frankly, I'm very afraid of what the zebra mussels can do. And I think they could have an absolutely huge impact as we keep trying to deal with water systems around the state, and the concern about how they're used and whatever. To have something like a zebra mussel, or other mussels, other invasive species clog up those pipes, could make a huge difference. We don't need to have that battle as well.
Here.
The other two that come to mind, I think were mentioned briefly, were the Japanese beetles and the ash borer. I don't think folks understand the impact of the ash borer and how difficult it is to deal with it. But it is something that can have a huge impact, and it will be one of those impacts that people will literally, 2 years later, will say, "What happened?" They won't know what happened. They won't see it, until it's done. And if you look at the places across the country that have had these little beasties show up, under the bark, and dig in, we really have a real concern. I have a real concern about that. So.
To that point, Senator, I would just add on that the legislature granted additional funds to the Department of Agriculture during the September special session, which will help them kind of start this work. But I would anticipate in the next long session that there will need to be additional discussion around ongoing funding and resources to help the department and all the partners keep that work going.
I see beautiful pictures of fall leaves right now, in different places. I don't think people understand that that could have a huge impact in a very short period of time, if that insect is not dealt with in some form. I think I've got my list already down there. The less than understood thing as well. I think you had a list there earlier that were not toxic, but they are invasive. In my neighborhood, there are so many volunteer butterfly bushes that it's starting to drive me nuts. Even in my yard, I have to pull them. So it's something that people need to understand, that there are consequences for moving some of the beautiful flowers, attracting butterflies like crazy, but also invasive like crazy as well. So it's something that I think people need to have a good list in mind of some of the potential concerns that we might have. No one's planting ivy anymore, thank goodness. And I actually saw one of my new neighbors talk about how she was interested in putting in morning glory. And I looked at her and I said, "You've got to be kidding me." But there are other plant species that are in fact out there, very pretty, very decorative, but also very invasive, and many people do not know about them.
Senator Frederick, the other day I looked up a publication that this council co-developed with Oregon Public Broadcasting back, oh gosh, almost 14 years ago. It's called Garden Smart Oregon. The reason why I looked at it is that I wanted to reflect on whether or not 14, 15 years later, what the information that was shared in this booklet, very colorful, you can Google it, Garden Smart Oregon, was still relevant. And I looked through all the species and they're still relevant today, 14 years later. That's when we actually had that publication out, and we still have that publication online and physically on hand. And some of these tools and resources we've invested in, maybe we should revitalize them as well, because that publication really addresses what you're talking about. There are invasive plants that are very attractive, that attract people to plant them, but then there are alternatives, either native or ones that are set through the Oregon Association of Nurserymen that we work with that are not invasive. And so I think that's what Oregonians would like to see, not just highlight the problem, but what can I do?
If I may,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just the point that I would add to that, I think that's a really salient point, is an overlay as well of climate change. And there's a lot of folks, a lot of backyard gardeners who are looking to change their landscaping to be more drought tolerant and more heat tolerant. And if there can be an overlay of native plants that are also a little bit more drought and heat tolerant, I think that would be super helpful. Because I think that's what I've heard, at least, is folks wanting to take out plants and add in more resilient plants, and those might not be native plants. If there can be an overlay in those resources, that would be helpful.
The other aspect for that is that the fact that you said that was 14 years ago.
Yes.
The number of new Oregonians since that time is significant, and many of them are coming from other places. It's from across the country. It's the Phoenix, Phoenix and Tucson allergy story, where the folks moved to Arizona to avoid pollen, brought their plants with them. Some of these folks we're dealing with the same kind of thing. So we need to update that and get it to people in a way that will be effective, and then recognize that 5 years or 10 years down the line, we're going to need to do it again.
Great points, Martin. Senator Frederick. Person. Thanks.
Patrick, any questions from online?
We're almost ready for public comment.
Yeah.
Questions online.
Morgan, you got anything to update us with, or want, or wish? Sure.
Sure. The only couple of things I was thinking of, Director Melcher covered some of it at the beginning of this meeting, but to share that I think the obvious piece that our office will be transitioning, and whoever will be in my role will be someone new. And so I think I would just really encourage this whole group to really reach out and engage whoever will be the next me, to bring them into this work and to ensure that the governor's office is engaged and supportive and really tuned in. So I think this is really important. And the second piece that Director Melcher did cover a little bit was just on the budget process, and that the state agencies, Department of Ag included, has been going through their somewhat normal budget process, but there will not be a usual governor's budget coming out December 1st, but the new governor will have an opportunity to review it and then make it public February 1st. And so it really is largely up to the new governor and the legislature to help keep this work moving forward. So just a slightly different process than usual. That was all I was going to add.
All right, thank you. Questions? Okay, I think we move to the time of public comment. So we'll open it for public comment. Any members of the public online? Patrick, nobody? So no comments. So we'll close the time for public comment, which is unfortunate. We don't have more public coming here, but it is. Okay, so we move to, we're gonna get done early, even though we're starting 8. Peter, do you want to give us some direction or what's next?
Yeah, so,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Thank you guys for joining us today. Join us tomorrow. We got some updates on different programs going too. So thank you.
Thank
Senator
you. Thank you to the council. And as always, thank you to Patrick and all the good work you do, sir. Appreciate it. Senator, it's always a pleasure. I hope you feel better.
Likewise.
Be well.
You're well. Thank you, guys. All right. Go ahead.
okay, so what the plan is, our farm is in North Albany, up on I-5, take the first Albany exit, go through Albany, on Highway 20, like you're going to Corvallis. As soon as you cross the bridge, you cross the Willamette, you hang a right on Spring Hill Drive, and you go about a mile on Spring Hill Drive, and then you turn right on Nevergall Loop. And if you miss the first Nevergall, there's always the second one. And we're down on the far end of the loop, at the outside loop, the big red barns out there. And you turn, there's also, my wife's operating a you pick pumpkin patch there now. So there's pumpkin signs and a little bit of traffic there, but if you pull in by the big barns, there's plenty of place to park there. And Michael Air from the Benton SWCD and the Willamette Main Stem Co-op will be there to talk about some of the Olivia efforts that they've been making over the past number of years on the Willamette system. And Vanessa Heilman with Willamette River Teachers will be there. And we'll visit there a little bit, and then I'll take you to at least one spot down where we can overlook the Willamette River, and you get a sense of the infestation of Olivia on the banks of the river from there. And if we got time, we can go to another spot, and then back in the barn for food. And I got plenty of food. I hope you all come. Made food for 30 people, and so you're gonna have to eat one.
Peter, is there anything that we can bring or do or provide?
I think everything, yeah, no. But just carpool again, you know, would make sense. People are coming back here, carpool.
Okay, yeah, Patrick.
Quick reminder, if you have not already, place your lunch order through the little lowest link that was emailed out. Those are due tonight. And they'll deliver those tomorrow before our working month.
Anything else for the good of order before we adjourn?
We're back in this room in the
We're
morning.
back to this room in the morning, yes. So we got it worked out, so we only have to go one place. All right, thank you, guys. We'll see you at Peter's place.
Who's heading out to the farm so Peter can know when it's going to be?
Oh, I'm heading over.
Are there any members from the online community?
Anybody from online gonna go over Peter's place? I'm still not used to having this at these cities, so, you know.
Unfortunately not, but I did want to say thank you to everyone. Really appreciate the time, and I hope everyone has a great evening.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll call this meeting adjourned for today.
Thanks for setting it up with the representatives. That was really helpful.
You guys come over.
They've got 16 minutes. Is that right?
It's way more exciting than talking about wake boats pissing on them.
Well, we can get to that.
No, we're not.
Oh, come on.
We get to that, remember.
Oh. We can talk about how they remove invasive species.